Hi, I'm Jason from Optitech USA, lead technician, and today what we're going to be doing is start up on a 6E edger, start up to touch probe calibration, quick calibration on your 4T, and then we're going to run a couple of lenses through to show you how that's done, and let's get started. Alright, first what you want to do is turn on your edger and turn on the tracer. Power button is in the back left over here. Once you're waiting for all that, the edger will probably take about a minute to start up. It goes through all of its loading sequence, and so it should take about 30 seconds to a minute. What it's going to do is going to prompt up here. It'll start telling you everything that it's doing. Sometimes it'll boot up saying no ARC neck card, asking you to proceed, just hit OK. It's just an old form of communication. Right now it's homing the servos, so it's moving your carriage left and right, making sure it's in the correct position. And what you want to do is right here, it asks you to please verify that touch probes are pulled to the front limit. Now when it asks that, what it's asking is your touch probes here. Right there. You want to make sure you're pulled forward towards you all the way. Every now and again, a lens, when you're cutting a job, can accidentally push it backwards like that. You want to make sure it's pulled forward. So now what you need to do is you take your calibration step disc. This is what it is. This is what it looks like. There's various different centers. And what you got to do is just put it in here. Hit the chuck button, mounts just like that, and then you hit OK. Now what it's going to do is going to move the carriages into position for the touch probe calibration. What it's doing is it's calibrating the depth and the height of everything. So when you trace a lens, no matter what the thickness is, this way it can tell the best position for the bevel and where it needs to go. This process usually takes about 30 seconds. As you can see, it's over here. What it's going to do, it does left and right, and now it comes over to here, hits that one, does another step, and it comes over to the next side. And what it's going to do is going to go over, and it's going to do the exact same thing. Always generally just watch it, make sure nothing's happening. Every now and again something could be in the way and it doesn't hit the touch probes all the way, so you just want to make sure it actually hits them correctly. Alright, so hit the chuck, remove that. And now what we need to do is do a quick little calibration on your tracer before you begin to use it. When I turned it on, it asked for the frame calibration template. That's this. You want to make sure your circle's on the right, half circle's on the left. Your calibration values are on the front. Open this up. When you mount it, you want to make sure that little V is lined up with the line here, and all you do is hit start. What this one is doing is it's calibrating a frame size, so this way it gets an accurate measurement of your frame and bevel position. And that should take just a few more seconds. Processing data takes another few seconds, and it should say completed. And there we go. If it didn't calibrate correctly, it'll say up here calibration failure, and it'll ask you to do it again. So all you have to do is just hit start again, and it'll run the same process until it calibrates correctly. Because what it's doing is it's trying to calibrate itself to these values right up here. Next, it's asking for the rimless calibration. Rimless calibration. Normally you have it. This bracket here looks just like this. It's got a little diamond piece in the middle. Just remove it. mount your pattern on the C bracket with your magnet in the middle, and mount it here. Push firmly on, make sure that's good. Now it says with the point facing towards the right, so now you can see the point is facing towards the right. All you have to do now is hit start, and this will run all the way around, and your rimless will be calibrated. You pull that off while it's still rotating. Processing data, jumps to the main job screen. That means everything calibrated correctly. Like I said, if it says failure, all you have to do is just run it one more time, and it usually corrects the issue. So now, on the machine, after touch probe calibration, it always asks this: has the machine been cleaned? If the machine hasn't been cleaned, you would hit clean. It gives you the option to move the carriages in various directions and turn the vacuum on manually, which allows you to suck out all the shavings. If it has been cleaned, all you do is hit yes, and it brings you to your main job screen. Quickly right now though, I'm going to take you to the clean screen and I'll show you how to move the carriages around. So you hit clean, and it gives you just a couple of basic options here. So moving size. So right now that one's the highlighted one. So if I hit enter, the size here moves all the way to the back. That gives you a chance to clean here with the vacuum. Now if I wanted to go here, I can move arrow down. The arrows are here, up and down. Arrow down to move bevel carriage. If I do that and come over here, you can see the carriages move over. That gives you an option to vacuum all the shavings underneath the carriages. If you're wondering where the vacuum switch is, it is actually inside. I can lift this up and show you. Right over here. The vacuum switch is right here. The big switch right there. All the way down should be your cycle mode. In the middle, it's off. And if you push all the way up, turns your vacuum on manually to use. If you want to use it manually, just pull your hose off the bottom of the chip chute, and then you can use it to vacuum out the inside of the machine. Now, once you've vacuumed it out, and you want to move the carriages back in the home position, all you have to do is arrow down to the home carriage and hit enter, and your carriages will home themselves. Once that's all done, all you have to do is hit job, corresponding with the green button. Takes a few seconds, and there you are at your main job screen. Start off with a normal job. What you want to do is take your frame, mount it like that. Make sure that the frame is in between each little V right here. You can even bring it down a little bit and make sure it's nice and snug. This little center piece goes in the center of the nasal to make sure it's centered up on the tracer. What you do now is you select what type of material it is. So if it's metal frame, if it's a plastic frame, if it's a metal wrap, or if it's a plastic wrap. This one's a metal, so obviously we're going to put it on metal. And job number. You can give it any job number you like, or if you have invoice numbers, you can run by that. So right now I'm going to do job number 9. I can hit enter, and then it tells me to hit start up here, so I hit start. And this goes all the way around, tracing everything, and as you can see, it's giving you an exact copy on the screen here. It comes all the way around. Get ready to take it off. And there we go. The frame is traced, processing its data. And what it does here is it gives you all the frame measurements, the A, the B, the C, the ED, your DBL. This is an exact measurement. If you'd like, you can typically change these numbers if you'd like to, but I wouldn't recommend it. Right now, so at this point, you can hit save. Job is saved. So I did that number 9. So what I go over here is, I hit number 9. Okay, now that we have job number 9, you can see your trace here, and you can check for any imperfections. Typically, if it has any bumps on there, you can usually see them on here on little ridges. But this one is good, so we'll advance through everything else. What you can do is check for your frame. So this one was a metal frame, so you want to check metal. And I'm going to be using a poly lens. So what you can do is, right here with the green button, you can select material. You can keep scrolling through all the different materials, CR39. Right now I'm using poly. Also, arrowing down, right here is your arrows. You can move up and down on the fields. And if you don't want to use these, you can also use this plus and minus key. Plus and minus key is kind of like a select key. You can hit it and it'll change it. See, like I just changed my bevel to a front. Or I could change it to a back, and there are various other types of bevel positions in there. Right now I'm just going to use an automatic, which is typically what you'd use for pretty much everything. And right now I'm going to turn my polish off. And like I said, down here you can turn your polish back on or off with these, or your safety bevel on and off. So right now what I'm going to do is mount the lens right in here, just like that. I want to make sure that it's nice and flush. If it seems like it's rocking all over the place, then that means it's not in the correct position. So we want to make sure when it's in position, it's nice and flat. Hit your chuck key, closes that. Now what you want to do is close the window here. When you close the window, it turns on your start button. And you just want to double check to make sure all your features you selected are what you want, and then you hit start. Now what it's going to do is it's going to bring it over here. It's kind of hard to see with the window here. It's going to come over here, and it's going to, touch probes are going to trace the exact frame onto the lens and make sure that there's enough material there to cut the lens out. If it falls off the side of the lens and says that there's not enough material, that usually means either the block was not centered correctly or the lens is not big enough to cut the shape of the frame. And what it does here is it does the front and it does the back, and now it goes started for cutting the job. Typically these jobs take about 30 seconds to a minute. Unless you have a very thick lens, then it could take up to about 3 to 5 minutes. Right now what it's doing is roughing the lens. It even tells you here what it's doing on the screen. It'll tell you it's roughing the lens, and it's telling you it's finishing the lens. Right now it's putting the bevel on it. Like I said, this should only take about 30 seconds, and it's almost done. And there you go. Okay, just move all the way to the left side. Once it's all the way over here, open your window and you can pull out your lens. And as you can see, it places the bevel in the best position it thinks possible. So this is what the automatic bevel does. If for some reason when you cut your lens and it's still too big to fit into your frame, what you can do is make sure your eye here says the eye you just cut. Sometimes it may toggle and it'll say left eye, advancing for the next lens. What you need to do is hit the eye button, which is the green button here, and it brings it back to the right, and you can resize it. So typically what I like to do is I like to bring it down a little bit at a time. You don't want to overdo it. So right now it was cut at a box size 0, and it's still a little bit too big. So I want to come down maybe like 1/10 of a millimeter, so I hit 1, 0, and it already goes into the minus. All you have to do here, make sure you keep it blocked. Mount it back in exactly the same way it was, chuck the lens, you close the lid, and then you'd hit start, and it would do the same thing. It'll do a trace, and then it'll cut the lens and it'll bring it down another tenth, and you just make sure it fits. If it doesn't fit, then you bring it down another tenth if you want, or you can bring it down more. Now what it's going to do is it's going to say it's already down a tenth, but you want to bring it down another. So what you're basically doing is you're adding to it, so now it'll be at 2.0. So that was the first tenth, and now it's the second tenth, so it's at minus 2.20. And then you just go on and so forth until you get it down to the correct size. That's for a beveled lens. Now for a rimless lens, you mount this diamond piece back on the center. There's no up or down for it. And you get your rimless lens. Make sure you dot it up probably on a lensometer at a 180. Make sure you get that. And I'm actually going to use this lens. It's a little bigger to see. Take this lens, mount it up. If you have your 3 dots from your lensometer for a 180, there's actually a straight line on here. You just mount your dots with that straight line. Make sure you get a good trace. So make sure you press it on nice and firmly. And then you mount it on here, just like this. Make sure it's nice and snug. Always on the right side, never on the left. And what you want to do is you want to make sure your options here are selected correctly. So it's going to be automatically selected. It's selected a groove lens and a rimless lens. So that's what you want for your groove frames. Rimless on here and grooved up there. And again, you can choose any number. I'm going to choose number 7. I hit enter and then I hit start. Now what that did is it gave me a stylus error. What you want to make sure is your stylus is into the back position all the way, and go ahead and try and hit that again. If it gives you a stylus position error, sometimes you may have just hit start twice accidentally, or the stylus is not in the correct position. So like I just showed you, you may have to move the stylus arm in and out a little bit to make sure it's seated correctly. So what we have here is our frame we just traced, our pattern, and it's going to ask you for a DBL now. You can enter this, or you don't have to unless you have a digital blocker. Then you might want to enter what the DBL of the frame is. So this one I can just enter probably 17. So 170, enter, and then hit save. Okay, so now over here, what I did is I traced on number 7. So I hit 7, hit enter, and there's my pattern. So what I want to do is, again, you can change your box size if you'd like. I typically leave it at the 0 if your machine is calibrated correctly. I can arrow down. I can put it on a standard groove. Again, you hit the plus and minus. You can put it on a wide groove, which gives you just a slightly bit wider, especially if you have those metal wired frames. And it'll select through its frames standard sizes. And what you want is you want it on standard groove. And again, I'm using a poly lens, so I'm going to arrow down and hit poly. And automatic, which it'll put the groove in the position the machine thinks it should be in, or you can tell it what you want. Again, you can do center, front, back, any position that you need it to be in. And again, I'm going to turn off my polish. So go ahead and mount the lens like you normally would. Hit chuck, close the window, and hit start. And again, what it's going to do is going to come on over and it's going to trace the lens and make sure there's enough material to cut. Like I said, if it falls off the lens, then that's telling you that the block is probably in the wrong position, or there's not enough lens material to cut out the shape. So So it does the back, the front, now it's going towards the back. It's going to do the exact same thing, making sure that there's enough material, and once that's done, it'll start its process. Right here again, you can see it's giving you rough lens. It's telling you exactly what position it's at, so you never really have to guess. Running over here, and should be going to finishing lens, which will give it a clean cut. And then in just a moment, it should go over to saying grooving lens. This process takes a little bit longer. This takes about a minute and a half for this type of lens to be cut on a standard lens. You can see over here, it's starting to put the groove onto the lens. Again, it is kind of hard to see through the window, but you can see there's the groove being put into the lens. All done. And there you go. There's your rimless lens. Again, if the size is still too big for whatever reason, or you want it smaller, you can change the box size and it will cut it down and regroove the lens. Other than that, if you have any questions, concerns, give us a call. My name is Jason, Optitech USA. I'm the lead technician. You can call us at 1-855-589-1910. Thank you.